Sunday. Welcome to another class. I hope you're feeling well, nice and rested, or maybe you need some rest. Class today will be pretty mellow, low flow, mobility. Take some time today to be really gentle with ourselves. So you can make your way into a comfortable seat. I hope the trucks in the background aren't too loud. As usual, lots of options for a comfortable seat here. You can sit on your shins, you can sit cross-legged. According to the legends, one leg hooked in like this, the other foot placed on the ground here. This is how the Buddha sat when he meditated. This is a really nice, comfortable, gentle seat. So take a few moments to arrive to your seat, do what you need to do to get comfortable. Use blocks, pillows, props, whatever you need. The theme for class today will be finding gentleness for ourselves, non-harm for ourselves. And I'll share just a really short reading from Pema Chodron, again, my favorite. So either as you're settling into your seat or if you're already seated with your eyes closed, just listen to this small reading and think about what comes up, visualize it, maybe it's memories, ideas, pictures, sensations, and just sit with it and notice whatever arises. Learning not to cause harm to ourselves or others is a basic Buddhist teaching. Non-aggression has the power to heal. Not harming ourselves or others is the basis of enlightened society. This is how there could be a sane world. It starts with sane citizens, and that is us. The most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves, is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. And that last part there is what I want to keep in mind throughout practice today. The most fundamental aggression to ourselves, the most fundamental harm we can do to ourselves, is to remain ignorant by not having the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. Super important to keep in mind. We can respect ourselves by being gentle. We can respect ourselves by being honest, taking an honest look and view of ourselves. Even though we might not like what we see, if we can keep some compassion in mind for ourselves especially, that's how we lay the groundwork for then having compassion for others. It all starts with practice with ourselves first. I know we hear a lot in society that you can't love other people until you truly love yourself first. And so we can take little steps in our practice here to just be gentle and compassionate with ourselves. And then that skill set will spill over into the rest of our lives. If we can master it with ourselves first, then we can eventually use those skills outward in our interactions with other people. Pema Chodron literally calls this like warrior training, bodhisattva. We're practicing to be warriors here. Just we need to change our perspective and our definition of what a warrior is. And this is the truly hard work, right? How can we have the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently? It's at the same time really, really simple and yet super hard. So with a lot of these themes that I bring up at the beginning of class, I find it helps me most to apply the concepts during my physical yoga practice, and if I drill it into my brain over and over again on my yoga mat, it sort of becomes this like mental muscle memory that will then become easier in day-to-day life, out and about. I won't have to be so consciously trying to do it. I do the conscious trying effort here on my yoga mat so that it kind of comes more naturally out in my day-to-day life, which is still practice. It's a different kind of practice. So have the courage and the respect to look at ourselves honestly and gently. Keyword gentle for today. So nice and comfortable in our seat here. We'll take a few more deep breaths. In and out through the nose. See if there's any part of yourself that you can soften right now. Release tension from your shoulders, your neck, and unclench your teeth. Let your body feel gentle and soft. Be sure to sit up nice and tall. With every breath in through the nose, feel light, feel clarity, feel your spine growing taller. And with every exhale, feel a stronger connection through your seat down onto the mat. Feel more connected and grounded with each exhale. Now keeping your eyes closed, or you can gently flutter the eyelids open halfway. We'll link a little bit of movement with our breath. On an inhale, sweep both arms up overhead. Tip the chin upward, palms face one another. On the exhale, bring the palms together at your heart, and the gaze is forward, neutral again. Inhaling, sweeping arms up, tipping the chin upward, gazing up if you have your eyes open, and as you exhale, bring the palms together at your heart. 3 more times through like this. The last time through here, big inhale, tipping, lifting upward, and the exhale, let it sigh out of your mouth. And bring the breath back to the nose again. And we'll try to keep the same awareness and focus of our theme, the gentleness, the courage to be honest with ourselves. As we move through class, Now let's all gently open our eyes together. We'll move any blocks or props out from underneath us. And lean back slightly on the mat. So we have feet in contact with the mat and the tailbone or sit bones here. Place the hands on the mat behind you, fingertips facing forward. And now think about a cat-cow movement for the thoracic spine, the upper back and the chest and the head. But we'll keep our sit bones in contact with the mat as they are. So on an inhale, lift the chest forward and up, tip the chin slightly. And an exhale, round the back, draw the belly in. Really try to feel this rounding sensation in between your shoulder blades here. It'll take a little bit of practice. Also think about scooping the tailbone forward towards your heels, gently rounding the shoulders forward. And the inhale, chest forward and chin lifted again. And exhale. Move at your own pace here with your own breath. And try not to think about the movement coming from rolling shoulders back or forward. Think about instead lifting the heart and then rounding the heart back. And let the head hang down on that exhale. Keep the neck in control on the inhale when you lift up. Don't let the head fall back so far that you let it flop and hang. So we're just slightly lifting the chin. Really draw that heart forward, leading with our heart. And now back to a neutral spine. Keep pressing into the hands here, the fingers facing forward, shooing away mosquitoes over here. Now we'll move the shoulders quite a bit. Take them up and around in circles. So what will happen here as a byproduct is your chest will move a little bit and just allow it. So circling forward, shrugging the shoulders up, taking them back, squeeze those shoulder blades together and then down again. Elbows are free to bend here. And now circle the opposite direction. Shrugging up, forward, down, and back. It's a little bit of an awkward movement to get used to. And neutral shoulders again here. Press your weight into your hands and your feet and lift the hips up to a reverse table, tipping the gaze upward slightly and then lower the hips back down. Press into the feet, big inhale, lift the hips up. We're trying for a flat body here, best as you can. And then exhale, lower back down. If you want more core strengthening component here, on the inhale, lift up, really squeeze the glutes at the top, and when you come down, round the back, draw the hips back towards the hands, rocking onto the heels, toes come up to an assisted L sit. If that's a little bit too intense for today, you'll lift here at the top, squeeze the glutes, and then lower the hips just right back down to where they were. So 2 different variations. You get to choose which one you like. In either case, be sure to squeeze your glutes at the top. Inhaling as you come up, exhaling as you come down. Last one now here at this reverse table. Hold at the top. Really squeeze the glutes. Try your best, lift the hips a little bit higher. Also trying our best to keep our head neutral. Again, not flopping, hanging all the way back. And now lower down. So now the hips come to about halfway between the hands and the heels. Take the feet together. We'll lean ourselves forward to a bound angle pose here. So really important to be gentle with yourself here. We're not very warmed up, so take your hands to the outside edge of the feet. The four fingers are going to wrap onto the outside edge, and the thumb is going to go to the inside of the arch of the feet. Rock yourself forward onto the sit bones. Bring the chest forward. And for some of us today, our goal will just to be have our back straight here. Someday, one day, we'll fold from the waist. But what we don't want is rounded back, our tailbone scooped forward, lots of rounding here, shrugging the shoulders up around the ears. So think about pulling on your feet with your hands to bring your heart forward and up. And especially at the beginning of our practice here, this is probably as far as most of us will go. We'll take it really, really easy today. Be gentle with our bodies. No need to actively push your knees down to the sides here. We just let gravity do the work for us. Maybe as you settle into the pose, you might feel you can fold a little bit, but think about hinging forward from the waist, not collapsing and rounding the back, trying to get the top of your head to your feet. We're trying to get the heart to come forward. Now release the grip of the hands, take them to the outside of the knees and draw the knees in together and give yourself a tight little hug here. Release again. Step the feet out slightly, the hands to the mat again behind your sit bones, fingers facing forward. We'll take it up to a reverse table again, so pressing down into the feet, lift those hips up nice and high, squeezing the glutes at the top. And lower down. We're going to place our sit bones down, take the hands forward to a modified boat pose or Navasana. If you're comfortable with Navasana, you can take a more challenging modification if you want. But you can also keep the feet in contact here. So same concept, we're reaching forward with our heart. So if we're not actively reaching forward with the heart, what will happen is we roll over onto the tailbone and round the back here. It's a lot of strain on the hip flexors and not so good for the lower back. So instead, shift forward onto that sit bones and reach the hands, the heart, the chest forward. Now bring the hands back to the mat behind your seat, fingers facing forward again, and we're lifting back up to reverse table. We'll do this sequence 4 more times. So lower the hips, reach the hands forward, and reverse table. As you feel more comfortable here, you might like to try a different version of boat pose. It could also look like this, hands behind the knees, reaching that chest and heart forward. last one here. Now draw the knees into the chest. We'll swing the knees to one side, and we'll get our legs prepared here in, I don't know if there's a word for it. I've heard it called fawn pose, like a deer. So if you start with your feet on the ground, knees lifted, tip both knees to one side, and then sort of swing your feet together. So you've almost got like 90 degrees with both of your legs here. I hope that made enough sense to get us here. And then take the left hand out to the left side. So we're essentially leaning over to the side. And so we have our left knee to the same side as the left hand, pushing our weight into this left shoulder. We're going to take some shrugs and depressions for this left shoulder, working to stabilize the shoulder joint, working strengthen the lats here, the side body, and even our obliques a little bit. So we're bringing the shoulder towards the left ear and then pushing it as far away as you can. Now this whole time I'm thinking of actively pushing my right knee down, getting some internal rotation for this right hip. Working stabilization through the hand and mobility through the opposite leg. Now, find the shrug ear to the shoulder, this sort of depression, and then the elevation, press the hand away so our arm is elevated here. Hold this. You might feel that your armpit is kind of starting to work hard. That's what we want, that activation in the shoulder. Now take a cactus arm with the top arm, draw it back as far as you can. So we're twisting the torso forward. This right arm comes back. You can keep the gaze neutral. Now take this right hand and dive it underneath this window created on the left side. So now we're twisting the torso down, closing our chest towards the mat, and open it up again. Really nice gentle twist for the spine while we're still encouraging strength and stability in the rest of the body. Open it up, draw that right elbow back. Opening the chest best as you can. Really here, feel your shoulder blades coming together on your back side body. And take it down one more time. Ooh, I just got a nice crack adjustment in my back. That was good. So now we'll take this top hand to the mat over here. So both of our hands are next to each other. Now really feel twisting in your hips. Lots of internal rotation for this thigh here. And if you're comfortable, let the head hang down. You might find it's better to keep yourself high and lifted here if you've got this really tight hip, and that's totally fine. You could even have a hand up here to keep your chest nice and high. But if it's okay, you can start to walk your hands out slightly and take a fold here. Here I'm letting my head hang down and I have my eyes closed. And I'm sort of just repeating 3 words to myself in these moments where I'm holding the pose a little bit longer. Courage, honesty, and gentle. Courage to be honest and gentle with myself. Now walking the hands back up. We'll bring ourselves upright nice and slow. Take this right leg, send it out straight now, and hook the left foot in to touch the inside of the right thigh. Bring the left hand to the top left corner of the mat, send the right arm straight up overhead, press down into the right heel and the left knee. We'll lift the hips up to a nice supported side plank. Now here, you can take any amount of back bend that feels good for the body. I kind of like to play around with it, pushing my hips forward, feeling a nice arch in the back, and then bring the hips back, sweeping my right arm forward a little bit. So freedom to make this your own right now. You know what feels best for you, and it's going to be different than what feels best for me. So I'm almost taking little repetitions here where I lower the hips, sweep forward, and then I push my hips far forward and take the top arm back slightly. Lower the hips down all the way now. Sweep this right arm forward towards the right foot now. Since that was a really big open to the left side body, what I'm also going to do is take a little twist towards this other side. So now right hand is swept all the way around. Swept. The left hand in contact with the right leg somewhere, and we're just taking a little counter pose here, a little twist the opposite direction. And now square the shoulders towards the extended foot and start to walk the hands out and take a little forward fold. You might be able to make contact between your hands and your foot. If you're able to, try to reach for the ball of the foot. If you're not able to reach your foot, that's the goal someday, one day. Doesn't have to be today or tomorrow or next week. And then again, the same concept here. We want a straight back hinging from the waist. So I'm actively pulling my chest forward as I fold here. Here, if you have a strap, you could also loop that around the ball of your foot. Bowing my head in now. I'll close my eyes. I can usually find ways to soften some of the tension in my face. I often hold tension in my jaw, or I hold a sort of expression on my face that I don't realize. So again, in these moments in repose, with our eyes closed, can you soften yourself? Can you be a little bit more gentle? And can you revisit the idea and the theme for the class today? Also important here, our theme being kindness and compassion for ourselves. Now is not the time to push ourselves to the point of pain in trying to increase our flexibility. The increase in flexibility will come over time with a consistent, dedicated practice, but pushing yourself to the point of pain in the interest of trying to increase flexibility will usually lead to injury. So be gentle and compassionate in your stretching here. Now press into the hands, bring yourself upright. With the eyes open again, we'll switch to the other side. So find that sort of awkward 90 degrees with our legs here. Again, another easy way to get into that is to have your feet placed on the floor in front of you, knees lifted, and then tip the knees to the right side and swing this left leg back a little ways. Our right hand out to the right side now. Shrugging, shoulder to ear, and then pressing away. A lot of times in a practice, if we're taking a sort of hand balance or just bearing weight in general on our hands, downward facing dog, plank, preparing for chaturanga, we let our shoulder joint collapse here. The bones start to kind of crunch toward one another, and the ligaments that hold the muscles in place in the joint start to get strained. When we're pressing actively away like this, the muscles are all engaged, so those tendons and ligaments never get to the point where they're strained because your muscles are protecting the joint. So this just creates awareness around that for our super important, special shoulders. Definitely don't want to injure our rotator cuff at all. Notice again what's happening in the underside here of this shoulder joint. Working little bits and parts of your armpit that you didn't know that you could. Now we'll maintain this press here, space between the shoulder and the ear. Lifting this left arm up, elbow bent. Draw that chest back around, actively bringing elbow back as far as you can. So active range of motion. And now dive the left hand underneath that right side body, closing your shoulders and your chest down towards the mat. This opening up is also creating some space here in the chest, stretching out the pec, the deltoid of this top shoulder. And closing down here is such a nice stretch and release for your middle back. Now something else to note here. As I take this left hand underneath the right armpit, I'm pressing my left hand as far as I can towards the right side. So I'm actively trying to twist more here. And that's where a lot of the release is coming for my back. Open up one last time. And lower the left hand. And find any amount of forward fold. Although I guess technically it's not a forward fold, it's a side fold. Press into the hands to bring yourself upright again. Swing this left leg forward. I usually have to use a hand to assist here. Draw the right foot in, inside of the left thigh. Twist yourself a little bit to the other side. This will help prepare us to keep our shoulders squared towards the extended foot. And strap is handy if you have it, if you want that here. Otherwise, just reaching the hands forward, walking the fingertips out, bringing your heart and your chest forward, hinge from the waist. Now we'll lift up here, take the right hand to the opposite corner of the mat, lift the left arm up, press down into left heel and right knee, and lift those hips up nice and high. Wiggle and move it around, any sort of organic movement here that feels good for you. opening up the left side body, the top side here. And then lower the hips all the way down. We'll take another tiny little forward fold here. Beautiful. Now send the right leg out wide as well, a wide-legged forward fold. If you have your blocks, you can definitely use those to help prop yourself up here. Another thing you can do with the blocks is place them underneath the knees if you have really, really tight hamstrings here. Having the knees bent is going to be really helpful. This will help you still stretch into the adductors, the inside of the thighs, as you take a forward fold, but it won't be straining so much on the back of the thighs. So play around with the blocks here. I definitely encourage you. And another helpful way to use some props is to take blocks together almost like underneath your rib cage here, so you can lean forward and still feel supported. That way you can really settle in to the pose and feel yourself soften and relax. So trying for the straight back. Blocks are tucked in nice and tight to the belly. They're literally tucked under my rib cage, so I can fold forward here and I'm supported so I don't have to strain to keep myself up here. And in poses like this, wherever I feel the tightness in my legs, it's probably in your inner thighs or maybe the back of your thighs here, I'll visualize that muscle as I'm breathing. When I inhale, the muscle gets a little bit bigger and more rotund, and when I exhale, I imagine that muscle thinning out as I can stretch it a tiny bit more. So a little bit of mind-muscle connection and visualization here can help you work towards releasing some of that tightness in those muscles. If you're comfortable here, you can fold forward a little bit more, changing the blocks to a lower level to support you still. And keep in mind, some of us, this might be our goal for today, just a straight back, bringing the chest slightly forward, not reaching forward, rounding the back. We cheat ourselves out of the purpose of the pose when we round the back and drop the head down, roll forward, chest comes forward. If this is where you're at for today, you're still getting 100% of the benefits of the pose, so I encourage you to stay here and keep that back straight and high. If you feel you have a straight back, you can experiment with tiptoeing the fingers forward and folding yourself down a little bit lower. Now walk the hands back one at a time. Bring yourself up nice and slow. I like to take my hands behind the knees here to work my way out of the sky. Draw the feet in, knees together. And again, a nice little hug or squeeze here. You could also take this down onto your back and give yourself a rock or roll side to side to really undo that really wide open sprawling pose. We want to just take a counter pose that's essentially the opposite of that. So whether you're upright here or you're on your back, Just be sure to squeeze your knees in nice and tight. You can wrap opposite hand to opposite elbow. While I'm squeezing my hands, drawing my forearms in, I'm also pressing my shins into my forearms. So it's a little bit of a push and pull together, but it's very active. I'm not just sort of hanging out here. I'm pulling my knees in at the same time, pressing my knees into the shins. So activating some deep inner hip guys there. Okay, now release. We'll rock over our feet and come up off your back if you were on your back. Just do a downward facing dog. Pedal the feet out a couple times, releasing, softening those calves and the backs of the legs. Check in with what your shoulders are doing. Do you feel your humerus, the upper arm bone, collapsing into the shoulder joint? And if you do, can you create some more length in your arms and that shoulder by pressing into the hands a little bit harder? Still pedaling those feet left and right. Now we'll keep our hands where they are, lower the knees down. Keep the hips lifted high above the knees and start to walk the hands forward, sinking the chest down to a puppy pose. Notice puppy pose here, the hips stay really high. So you might have to readjust here. What we don't want is the hips to come back over the heels, bringing our chest down here. So keep the hips and knees stacked. And so in order to achieve that, I find it easier to walk the hands forward and work towards bringing the chest down. Now, if you're like me with a hypermobile lower back, you might be able to get your face down onto the mat, and if so, turn one cheek to the mat so you're not straining your neck. And then I will turn the opposite cheek to the mat. And press into those hands. Walk them back into a tabletop position. We'll thread the needle here. So press into left hand, lift the right arm up all the way. And again, here, important to keep the hips stacked above the knees. This top arm goes underneath the left armpit as far as you can to the left side of the mat. Bend the left arm like you're doing a push-up. And now either the right ear or cheek to the mat or resting on top of a block here. So now with this version of a twist and release for the backside body, it is a passive stretch. So we're just letting gravity hold us in place here. This right arm is in contact with the mat. And you can let gravity, the earth, do the work of helping to stretch us and release us here. There is an option for a half bind if you feel comfortable here. Lifting this top arm, take the back of the hand behind your lower back and reach it towards your right hip crease. So it's coming around behind you. And if you have that half bind, now we're a bit more active in our pose here. Think about rolling the top shoulder open towards the ceiling a bit more. Gently release that bind. Place the left hand down in front of your face and unwind nice and slow. Big move here, taking the right arm all the way up again. And we'll switch sides. Really deliberate with the movements here. Try that half bind again on this side if you tried it on the first side. And then release. Place the right hand down. This is my favorite part, undoing that really nice juicy twist. Ooh, take that left arm all the way up. Feels so good. And place it down. Swing your feet around to the side to bring them in front of you and lie down on your back on your mat now. Extend the left leg and let it lie flat on the mat. Bring that right knee in to your chest. Interlace the fingers around the right shin and roll the right ankle around. I'm already getting pops and cracks in my ankle. Roll the opposite direction. Take the right knee into the right hand now and take it out to the right side. I'm going to guide this right knee around in little half circles, just using my right hand. The right elbow is resting on the ground, so I have a pivot point. So I don't really need a lot of muscle strength to keep this leg where it is. It's being held up by the right hand, and my right hand is guiding the knee around. So pretty passive movement for the right hip joint. Now if you're comfortable here, you can extend this right leg out if you have the space. I'm still keeping right hand propped underneath the right leg, so it's a passive opening for the inner thigh. My left hand now is pressing down on my own left hip bone to remind me to keep my left sit bone in contact with the mat instead of rolling this hip up and over. You might also be comfortable in your practice with taking fingers out to your big toe and really opening up that leg. Just remember to be gentle with yourself. It takes courage to admit when, oh, maybe that modification isn't for me, and we might need to choose a different modification that serves us better. I'll draw that right leg up again, knee is bent. Now the left side, I'm going to actually roll onto the left hip. I have a block close by here to prop up my right knee. And right arm opens to the right side, gaze towards my right hand. And gaze back to neutral, draw the right leg in and switch legs. Start first, draw that left shin in towards the chest. Tight squeeze here, fingers interlaced on top of that shin as you roll the ankle around. A couple times, both directions. And take that left knee over into the left hand. It's almost like your left elbow pressing onto the ground has made a kickstand for this left knee. And then you can take little movement here to guide the knee around. It's a supported way to explore the mobility of that left hip. Option again to take this out a little further and extend the stretch on the left side. Keep this right hip planted down. You'll notice what can sometimes happen if you let the left leg fall to the right hip rolls up. We want to avoid that. So pressing the right hip down on your own and supporting the left leg. And again, that's where that honesty comes in a little bit. Check in with yourself. Is your ego striving for this really sprawled open thing and you're compromising the hip here? So with a little bit of honesty and compassion for ourselves, can we roll the right hip down and lessen the stretch over here? It doesn't look as cool, but it serves us a little bit more. And then draw the left knee in, rolling over to the right side now. With a block. Super nice to prop that knee up. And open up the left arm. And now untwist yourself, unwind. If there's another simple pose you really like right now, you're welcome to take it. Try to keep your heart low, your heart rate low. So any low impact pose could be nice. Always nice to take a happy baby at the end of class. If you feel ready for Shavasana, you can go ahead and spread yourself out, sprawl out. Hopefully you've got lots of room so you can allow yourself to relax in freedom. Allow your feet to kind of sprawl to the side. If this feels okay for your lower back, you can keep your legs as they are. If you feel any pinching or pain at all in your lower back, please modify. I've shown in a few other classes, a nice modification is to place the feet down. You notice I kind of lifted my hips and swung my tailbone forward. And now my feet are wide, the knees come together so they've like created supports for one another. And then let your arms rest at your side, the palms facing up for receiving. Now is our time for our body to receive the lessons from our class. Our nervous system can reset. Our mind can also receive and start to imprint those ideas of the courage it takes to be honest and gentle with yourself. In our Shavasana, do your best to avoid the temptations of adjusting and wiggling and fidgeting, to really give your body time to imprint with that class. That muscle memory can soak into place here. It's also a great time for you to observe what arises in your mental state. If the idea of trying to stay still makes you nervous, this is a great time to sit with that feeling and try to figure out where that comes from. We know that to lay still in Shavasana doesn't hurt us. This is time for our body to heal. So a little bit of reflection during this time can maybe address why it might be so hard for us to stay still. Also be gentle with yourself. If you do fidget and wiggle and adjust, that's okay. You're human. We're all human. It takes lots and lots of practice to perfect a Shavasana. So we do our best. And we feel compassion for ourselves when we maybe didn't do our best. Soften and relax the muscles of your face. Unclench your jaw. Feel your shoulders melting and relaxing into the mat with every breath. Now please take your time in Shavasana. Maybe even taking yourself to that place in between awake and sleep where you start to lose the awareness of your physical shell. When you're ready to come out of your Shavasana, take small little movements, gently waking your body back up. And roll onto one side or the other, a few moments in a fetal position. Then be sure to press into your hands to come back up to a comfortable seat. And whenever you're ready, finish your practice with a moment of silent gratitude. You can take your hands together at your heart and bow your head in. Feel gratitude for the opportunities to practice compassion with ourselves. We practice with ourselves so that one day we can practice compassion with others. Feel grateful for the words of wisdom from Pema Chodron, inspiring us to find the courage to be honest and gentle with ourselves. And thank you for taking the time to practice with me today. Namaste.